Okay, good. Anything else? Sheikh Ramadan. Sheikh Ramadan is from the Berlin Islamic Center.
I have 2 points to raise. One point is the academic research that is to be done in different fields. But now the question that comes automatically is, who is going to benefit by these researches? The missing link is that the question of leadership. When you have leadership, so that leadership makes use of research. Like now, for example, now in governments, in any government, there is Center for Research. And most of the government policies are based on the outcome of these researches regarding their foreign relationships, regarding certain phenomena in society that the government wants to address. So these are the source of information for the government, and the government implements. Now for us Muslims, we are scattered in fact. Our number is not too small, but we don't have leadership. So it is the leadership who can direct. That academics in University of UNISA, we want you to come and research in this area. Let it be the relationship between the da'is who are working in the Dadoo rooms, locking up themselves in the masjids, and their relationship with the society, how they can be influential in society. On the other hand, academics who are there in the libraries and there in society, to what extent they can make use of the knowledge that the Moranas have, so that they can work together. So the question of leadership actually undermines any initiative for research, and our research will be in shelves. Unless, inshallah, it is just a brainstorming that every Muslim must have that kind of thing in stock. The other point is the question of the concept of da'wah. The concept of da'wah is reduced to a very small aspect of da'wah, which is maybe speaking to people to invite them to Islam or so. This is not actually this is not the whole thing of da'wah. The whole thing of da'wah is that every Muslim who embraces Islam, who approves that I am Muslim, now you are entitled to practice da'wah. That broader sense of da'wah, which is represented in your behavior and how to interact with people in your field of profession. So in that regard, a businessman in his shop can be a very good guy. A doctor in his office, in his surgery, can be a very good guy. We have an academist in his lecture room, he can be a very good guy. So it means that you have to give an example of Islam. So people must come and inquire. People interact with you and they come to know that this is an abnormal person. So they must come and inquire about that. So they have that kind of longing to come and be like you. We want to be like you. And that's exactly what Rasulullah did before he was appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to announce his da'wah. When he announced it already, the people of Medina or of Mecca, they had known already that this person was a very trustful person. Trustful in the sense that they interacted with him. And among the reasons why the Prophet ﷺ delayed from going to Medina for Hijrah is that he had so many trusts. And the kuffar themselves, they gave him trusts, things to keep for them. So that he had to return the trusts, and that is among the things that delayed him. So it means that the concept of da'wah is a broad concept. It is not just a matter of putting certain type of dress and appearing in a certain type of format and going to certain places. In fact, when we minimize the concept of da'wah in that area, it is not done in fact. Yeah, that type of people that we fix them with certain shape, with certain format, in fact they are not doing it. Because if you say this is the Molanas from the masjid to the Darul rooms, or from the Darul rooms to their houses or to the masjid, and they do not interact with society in fact. There is no any program that brings them with society, with people who are non-Muslims, that to come and know them who they are. They know people who are living in very high places, and that is how they see them. So in another way, we are making Islam typical of Christianity, because the church people, they have certain type of dress and they behave like this, and the people have certain approach towards them, they respect them, they honor them. That's right. But Islam is not like that.
But to us, there are many things which have to be re-explored, revisited. For instance, even the institution, we're saying the corporate approach by institutions of learning, whether be it higher learning or otherwise, is in itself destructive and does not benefit those who need the benefits most. An example is if we have a research center, again, who will be the beneficiaries? Would it be those who can afford it? And would then those who cannot afford it be shut out of the institution? Now, that raises fundamental questions and penetrating questions as to, is the system going to fail us? Will the institution fail us? Or will we fail the institution by virtue of subscription to the system? Now, we don't know which way to go with this. We really don't know which way to go with this because we see that in society as it develops, as Islam, again, the revisiting of what is Islam as a building block of society has to also be explored by us holistically, in a sense that if we say that Islam will now give you access to academia, will it in another sense give you the life skills? Will it in another sense give you the support system? Will it in another sense give you the social support system? Now we're saying if we look at each one in isolation, we will not reap the benefits that we should reap of this good initiative. It's a good initiative, I'm not even going to argue that. But it in isolation cannot function. Just as if we do not understand Islam and go through the theological approach to Islam, cannot function because it's one-dimensional to the exclusion of all the other aspects. Now, I'm not sure, when we say we strike up a partnership, I'm not sure what kind of partnership and how do we actually access it as the poorer man. I must speak in the voice of the poorer man, who may not have the representation here.
A woman also, for some.
Sorry for explaining. But we're trying to look at how do we solve this dilemma, because it's actually a dilemma with all institutions. An example for me would be even what was UDW. Right now the poorer sector has no access to it, which means the poor remain ill-educated and the wealthier are educated, which perpetuates a cycle, hierarchical and unjust hierarchical society whereby there's a trickle-down sort of education approach. And I'm not sure how that can be remedied. Perhaps there needs to be exploration by those out here in what is the informal sector and those in the formal sector. Because when we talk about dawah, for instance, more often than not, if we say dawah to the disadvantaged who cling to Islam, bringing the hope of equality, the hope of a better quality of life, not in material senses, but in a holistic sense, and then find again there's the economic block. How do we transcend that? Because that perpetuates this very philosophy of begging. You know, it perpetuates, and we have to find the means around this. Perhaps that should be one of the critical areas of discussion, debate, within the attempt to find a way forward.
So I am a student in one of the institutions here in the country, so in the human sciences. So my concern is by reducing Islam to like other religions, I think I have a problem with that. Firstly, I don't have a problem in that they must be given all of them equal chance, but not to equate them to the same level. Reason being that Islam, according to my knowledge, is a complete and comprehensive way of life. So, for example, there is a book called the Bible, the Quran and Science. So, I think as Muslims, we need to popularize such books so that people may come to know that Islam, in fact, is not like any other religion, but it's also a science in itself, like through such a book I'm talking about. And the theory of evolution, like in courses like sociology, social anthropology, about the origin of man, you get told that we descend from monkeys, which is in fact it doesn't make sense, because like Islam tells you that we are created by a supreme being, And then the book I referred to also confirms such things, that there is a supreme creator behind the universe. So like as a Muslim, how do you respond in a university where you are told that you descend from a monkey? So automatically your religious perspective is undermined and silenced.
Okay, so I think you're raising this is a very serious question. That we know being in a secular, you got to understand, Prof is saying this, we are in a secular paradigm now. From apartheid we had a Christian, Calvinistic Christian setting. Being in a democracy has its advantages and disadvantages, which he said the advantages, they bring all religions and that were marginalized previously and give them a chance. But now your point, the question the brother is raising, is that in such a situation, Islam will just be treated as every other religion. There's no cutting edge, and so there's, and your point that at the university you will not allow evangelizing at the academic level, where you want to show the cutting edge. Now, is that contrary to probably what Islam says, or is it the law of the land? Or
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdul Wahid. What I would like to know from the professor is, for people, or let's say the people who have pursued these Islamic studies, let's say at UNISA, and who have mastered the Quran, and maybe the Hadith, etc., if I believe also there is such a thing there, how different are they, let's say, from our traditional Mulana, or let's say a person who studied in India, or maybe in Egypt, if maybe they are not considered to be on the same level of those people, then what is the reason, So
the question that our Reverend Doctor here raised, the issue of beneficiaries of the center. To my way of thinking, regardless of how we look at it, unfortunately that would remain a challenge, that would remain a problem regardless. We've got to be as honest and as candid as we possibly can to ensure that this does not become the sole property of the elite, the bourgeois clan. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. Otherwise we would be doing nothing but perpetuating an inequality. You know, all right, okay, let's just leave it at that. One, perhaps, a check, not check spelled with a Q-U-E, but C-H-E-C-K, a check here would, of course, the broader the involvement, the more the involvement of different voices, the greater the chance that we would be able to withstand this type of autocracy. I'm not saying that it's an ideal solution. I'm not. In fact, we would need to refine many things. But I would imagine that during the course of this discussion, I don't think I can do more than just maybe respond very superficially, if at all, and sometimes maybe even insufficiently, to a very well thought out comment or question. So at this stage I would think that the broader the the greater the mechanism of shura, the greater the mechanism for mutual consultation rather than unilateral decision, the better the chance that it would not lapse into some sort of a quasi-dictatorship. And that I think we would nearly we would need to resist at all costs. I think there was a question raised about compromise. Yes, brother. No doubt. This is, every system brings its own challenges, brings its own problems. As we say that when we were under the so-called Calvinistic influence, we had the nature of our problems were different. We must never simply, I don't know, for whatever selfish reasons, think that, well, I mean, now that we have a democratic system, I mean, we are living in a utopia. That would be absolutely soulless type of thinking on our part, really. My understanding is, in the first place, we would be bound by the Universities Act of the government, promulgated by the state. We might then be given one of two options. I mean, if I might be blunt about it, they say, all right, are you prepared to take on this role as one among many? Or if you would like to think that you have a more privileged status, then we are not in a position to give that to you. Not at the level of the government. You see, in terms of what our own community might be able to do to augment this, to add to this, well, that's a different story altogether. But as healthy, brother, as your wishes are, I really don't think here you are not dealing with me. You are probably going to be dealing with the Minister of Education. So they will say, okay, you don't want to have, of course, we can teach Islam then without reviling, without ridiculing, without castigating. We can do things very, very subtly, but we can get many messages through if we want to. And those alternative ways of doing things, which very often in the parlance of some of our hypersensitive Sunnis and Shias goes under this thing of taqiyya and all that, those are the types of silent things we can always sneak through very, very discreetly. Let me give you one example. We don't want any credit for this. All that we say is, if Allah is happy with us at the end of the day, we are answerable to Him, not to anybody else. I mean, at university, we are not only, if you might call it, preaching to the converted. Today, the courses that we teach, we are finding an increasing number of non-Muslims taking these courses. Arabic and Islamic studies, yes. The reasons are many. We don't need to go into all those details. Some reasons could be good, some not so good, some might be a little more neutral, whatever. But the percentage of non-Muslim wanting to study Islam and Arabic and so on has risen tremendously over the past decade. Undergraduate also, yes, undergraduate. Postgraduate, it hasn't yet started filtering through, not yet. But the point is, the point that I was trying to make is that here I honestly feel we need to grab that half chance. Don't tell them, hey, listen, we are above all the others. That is what we believe. Sure, and we would be right in our beliefs. I mean, that is part of our conviction. Because, well, Islam is deen, and deen is nizamul hayat. You know, it's a system of life. True. But the point is, if we are going to turn those into huge slogans or something, and if that will be our starting point, I'm afraid that we might just be cutting off some of our very own avenues that we should have been actually using to get the more important message through. Let me cite, if you'll allow me. Just a few months ago, I'm citing one example. There could have been many others. A Christian lady contacted my friend and colleague and said, I wish to tell you something. I have done some studies of Islam under you, and I am finding myself drawing closer and closer to this religion, and I am now on the verge of embracing Islam. Please pray for me. You know the thrill that that gives you, no amount of money, no amount of praise, no amount of status can ever give you that. The point is, there are times when we need, particularly when we are not in control of those resources. This is the condition. When we are not in control of those resources are given to us by the state. We then have to think very, very judiciously. I really don't think it's a question of compromise. I think it's a question of strategy. Okay. The other issue, the theory of evolution, I think our brother spoke about some of these things. Well, up to now, Alhamdulillah, I've been teaching Islam, and for that matter the same applies to people teaching other religions. No sort of direct or indirect pressure has been made to bear upon them, telling them that, you know, their concept, even in the creation of the human species, needs to be drastically altered so that we can make room for monkeys. Okay. By saying is, those in the natural sciences who wish to speak about that, they may carry on, but up to now I can promise you and I can assure you that they have not affected our balance or our stability.
My question is around, we're talking research. I'd just like to know if there's some provision made, because the research on its own, it's a skill. Not everybody can do research. You have to go through if there's any provision made, because we are talking about different fields that we can tap in, but how many people can do that? And we have to start from somewhere.
Okay. Yes, you are raising an issue that of course would come in, if not immediately, then I would imagine after a certain period. I was just speaking about the initial phase where we are speaking about researchers. We do have some of my colleagues, at least around me, I am certain, who are widely acclaimed both locally as well as abroad. I won't make it too much of a point of mentioning their names, etc. They can be a guiding light. Another lot of people who, you know, that we can take through this entire thing. Of course, as we say, we need teams of people, particularly those of our students who are promising, you know, who have potential, and also those who are doing postgraduate studies. They are the ones who can be exposed to this more easily, hands-on. Apart from that, there are these days, at least in theory, modules on research methodology, which of course needs to be further augmented with actual practical application. But this in brief is the answer that I will give you. In other words, this is another level of skills development that we need to embark upon, so that, you know, we don't allow this to remain confined to just a handful of people, because, you know, really knowledge is power. And when certain people possess this and others don't, oh yes, they can run amok with their lives.
Okay.
In fact, my question was motivated by my knowledge of the claim that the university is a place whereby there's sharing of ideas and critical analysis of different worldviews and ideas. So based on that, then you find that there is a situation whereby one worldview is given prominence over other worldviews. Like also under democracy, we are told that it's pluralistic. In other words, all the other views are accommodated. So by my question, I was not advocating for holier than thou attitude of Islam or special preference or privilege for Islam. But what I'm asking is, as in the case of Media Review Network, which looks at how Islam is presented in the media, Islam and Muslims. So can't we as Muslims have a body that looks at how in tertiary institutions Islam is presented? Like, for example, you look, we are given the picture that after the end of the Cold War, before that there was the competing of two blocks, capitalism and communism, in the international social, economic, political platform. So where is Islam in there?
Very happy. I mean, what you are saying, perfectly legitimate. Sorry, the first time around, I think I didn't understand your question. That is why I responded in that particular way. But now that you speak about it this way, I'm in agreement with what you say. No
Will the
problem.
university allow such a thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's our academic this thing that the point is, very often when we speak about the power of discourse, then we must know it is by what, discourse is sometimes powerful in terms of what it articulates and also that on which it remains silent. Sometimes silence is far more potent and powerful than speech.